Hey everyone, sorry I can't be there today, but I'm here to go through filling in your notes with you. Now the problems that are up here, this one that's right up here, right over here, that guy right there, that's kind of like if you had a textbook and you were looking in the textbook. Let's go through the directions and then we're going to follow those directions, our problem. Find both x and y intercepts. It says start by making y 0, then solve for x. That's called an x-intercept. Then it says to make x equal to 0 and solve for y, and that's a y-intercept. So here's my equation right there. There's the equation, and you'll notice that first they put in a 0 for y, just like it says, y equals 0. They put in 0 for y. When you multiply 2 times 0, this term disappears, so you're left with negative 3x equals 12. And then I'm going to divide by negative 3 on both sides, and that's how I get my answer of x equals 4. Now, why is this written as negative 4 comma 0? That's because I made y equal to 0, and so that's how I got my x. All right, so let's go to the next one. The second one is step number 2. It says to make x equal to 0. So you'll notice I replaced in my equation the x with a 0. If you replace it with a 0, it makes it disappear. So you're left with 2y equals 12. And then you divide by 2 on both sides and you get 6. So then you write your point as 0 comma 6. Why is that 0? Because we put in a 0 for x. All right, so we've done our first two parts. Now we're moving on to our third one. Plot the intercepts on the graph. So I went to negative 4, 0, and I put a dot right here. And then I went to 0, 6, and I put a dot right there. Then you're going to grab something that's fairly straight in your house or maybe the side of your phone, and you're just going to draw yourself a line. Putting the arrows on each end is kind of your choice. Okay, so let's practice this in two pieces. So first thing I want to do is we're going to start by just practicing finding those intercept points. Then I'm going to flip to the back side and we're going to do the whole thing with the graphs. Okay, so front side. First step, you're going to replace your y with a 0. When you do that, that makes that y term vanish. So you are left with negative 3x equals negative 18. You then divide both sides by negative 3, so you get positive 6. So that means that my first point that I would graph is 6 comma 0. All right, why is that a 0? Because I put in a 0 for y. All right, step number 2, you go back to the original equation, you put in a 0 for x. That makes the x term disappear, so you're left with 6y equals negative 18. You then divide by 6 on both sides and you get negative 3. Then I'm going to come down here and write that coordinate as 0 comma negative 3. Why is that a 0? Because we put in a 0 for x. All right, let's try it over here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a 0 for y. Now I'm going to underline this to kind of just separate it. So I'm going to have 4x minus 3 times 0 equals 12. All right, putting in a 0 makes that vanish. So you have 4x equals 12. You then divide by 4 and x equals 3. So that coordinate point that you would graph is 3 comma 0. Why is that a 0 for the y position? Because we put in a 0 for y. Okay, let me divide it out again. This time I'm going to put in a 0 for x. So I go back to my original equation and I put in a 0 for x. Putting in a 0 makes that disappear, so I end up with negative 3 equals 12. Divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3, y equals negative 4. This point is 0 comma negative 4. All right, so every time I'm starting back over with my original equation. So here's my equation. First, I'm going to put in a 0 for y. 5x doesn't change. Putting in a 0 makes this term vanish. So you're left with 5x equals 45. Divide by 5, divide by 5, x equals 9. So this point is 9, 0. All right, let's go down to the next one. Remember, you can pause whenever you want. So if I'm going too fast, you just stop and restart the video, okay? So this time I'm going to put a 0 for x. So I have 5 times 0 plus 3y equals 45. Now for those of you who are going, whoa, 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 what happened? I'm starting back with my original equation. I'm not here. I'm here. Putting in a 0 makes that disappear, so I end up with 3y equals 45. Divide by 3, divide by 3, y equals 15. So I have 0 and y coordinate is 15. So that's me breaking those steps down. If you've got that after the first one, of course, just flip over to the back side. Okay, so back side, we got to do two things. So first, let's find our x-intercept. So we're going to let y be equal to 0. So 6 times x minus 2 times 0 equals 6. Putting in a 0 makes this vanish. So you end up with 6x equals 6. Divide both sides by 6 and x equals 1. So this point is at 1, 0. Let's go ahead and graph that. So that's over 1 up 0. All right, now we're going to go back to our original equation. This time we're putting in a 0 for x. Putting in a 0 makes that term vanish. You get negative 2y equals 6. So y equals negative 3. So this coordinate is 0, negative 3. Another way to think about it is we're going to graph a 1 on the x-axis and a negative 3 on the y-axis. All right, so you now have that pretty darn straight. You need to grab something that's fairly straight. Again, you can use the side of your phone if you need to. I'm just going to grab this little notebook that I have. Oh, I made it wibble. Hang on. There we go. And I'm just going to use that as a straight edge. And then I'm going to connect my dots. Done. Okay, so I'm going to do a few more examples with you. But if you don't need any more, you can go on to Alex. But if you need a couple more examples, let's keep going. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is find my x-intercept by putting in a 0 for y. Putting in a 0 cancels that term out, so you're left with negative 6x equals negative 6. Make sure you divide both sides by negative 6. That will give you x equals 1. So your first point is 1, 0. Or another way to think about it is you're going to plot a 1 on the x-axis. All right, now we're going to go back up here and we're going to start again from the original equation. This time we're putting in a 0 for x. Okay, putting in a 0 makes that term vanish. Oh, let me make sure I'm on the screen there. So y equals 2. So we're going to put a dot at 2 on the y-axis, and we're going to write our coordinate just like that. Again, I'm going to reach for that little notepad I have, and I'm going to connect my dots, and I'm all done. Okay, so if you feel confident now, you can now go to Alex. What if you don't? Let's do another one. All right, so I am going to put in a 0 for y first. Putting in a 0 cancels that term out. So you get 4x equals 8. Please divide both sides by 4. X equals 2. Go put a dot at 2 on the x-axis. That's what I'm doing. You can also write the point as 2, 0, because that's what that point is. Again, remember you can pause anytime you want. Now we've got that x-intercept. Let's do the y-intercept. So in order to do that, you put in a 0 for x. By the way, it doesn't matter which one you do first, just that you do them both. All right, putting in a 0 cancels that out, leaving me with a negative 8 y equals 8. Divide both sides by negative 8. Negative 8, negative 8. And that's going to put me a dot at y equals negative 1, or a coordinate of 0, comma, negative 1. Notice I am not putting these together into a single coordinate. They are two separate coordinates. And now I'm going to draw a line through those points, and I am all done. That's it. Okay? What if you are now ready to do your problems on Alex? Go do them. But if you're not, we're going to do one more together. So first thing I'm going to do is replace my y term with a 0. Just like I've done on the last 3 problems. That makes that term go away, leaving you with x equals 2. So go over there, you put a dot on x equals 2. You can also write it as 2 comma 0. Now here's our tricky one, so watch out on this one. You're going to put a 0 in for x. That makes that vanish. You now have a negative y equals 2. So you have a choice. Here's the way I would do it. I would divide by negative 1. But you could also multiply. Either way there, you get y equals negative 2. Let's go put that dot down. I'm also going to write it as a coordinate. And then you're just going to connect those dots up. Okay, that's it for notes. I'll be back on Thursday. If you need extra help, come by and see me Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon. Remember Miss Rawlings, who's just on the other side of the science halls or the science classrooms. She's just on the other hallway, same floor. She's happy to help you also, okay? You just need to stop on by and say, can you help me out with these problems? Bring your notes. All right, again, I'll see you on Thursday. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Remember that you need to be doing 5.3 in Alex for today. Also, I've opened all the problem 4 sets up in case you didn't have 100% and you want to get that 100. Those things make a big difference in your average. Remember, that's 10% of your grade. So if you only have a 70 for your homework, you are throwing away 3 overall points in your average.